Good morning, good afternoon. I'm Hilton from Can't to Can, and we've got another interview here about a very special man called John Broadbent, who a friend of mine from work actually recommended me to and said, look, you should have a look at what this guy's got. I think he's got a book. And it turns out John does have a book, and it's called Man Unplugged. Now, I called John, who happens to live near me, and John very kindly sent me a copy of this book. And I've read a few men's books over the years, and I'll tell you what, this particular book is one of the very best.
Thank you.
I don't say that because you're beside me. I say that because it's the truth. So I really, really recommend Man Unplugged by John Broadbent. Welcome, John.
Thank you, Hilton. Much appreciated.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
The journey itself, from the head to the heart, to use your phrase, is probably one of the most painful and difficult, challenging journeys that a human being can do. However, it's a journey that all human beings can do, and it's certainly a leveler. It doesn't matter whether you, what colour, creed, culture, background, wealth, anybody can do it, and it's certainly a journey for everyone. And the thing about the journey for me is that even though at times it was excruciatingly painful, the liberation that came from that about understanding more about why I was in certain ways then actually gave me what I call true choice. Because up until that time I'd be making decisions and choices thinking that I had choice, not realising that they were choices being made what I call under the influence
Of the background.
Of unconscious behaviours or unconscious beliefs or unconscious values. And so the more I became conscious of what was my programming, to use that term, the output was always the same from the same program. As I then started to unpack the program, I realised, that's why I'm getting the same result. Whether it's relationships, whether it was driven largely in me by a distinct lack of self-worth. Right.
But of course you don't know you have a lack of self-worth.
No.
We don't often as guys. No. We go through life and just think, well, the feelings I have of whatever I have is just normal, and is suck it up, princess, and get on with life. You know?
Yes. Man up.
Man up. Exactly.
What a phrase.
Yeah, what a phrase. Man.
And I'd simply like to add too, the irony was that when the book was finished, I sent it off to the editor, all the mind map was done, I ticked all the paragraphs, all the chapters that I needed to write, very happy with the flow. I proofread it and I sent it off to the editor, but there was something wrong, there was something sitting with me at that time that really was niggling me, and it really bugged the crap out of me for about two weeks.
Wow.
And suddenly this thought popped into my head. It was, hang on, why did I write the book? What was the actual purpose of the book?
Oh, interesting.
And I realised I hadn't actually answered the question. And I remember going to my computer, sitting down, and I finished the last chapter, which I didn't know was missing. And I sat down and I wrote this entire chapter in a matter of 15 to 20 minutes. And it was the final closing chapter.
Right.
And it was the chapter on authenticity.
Right.
And I realised that the book is really about how do we live an authentic life if we don't know who we are.
Wow. And this is the difference, as somebody once said to me, the difference between elders and olders is the elders have been through a journey.
Yes.
They've lived life.
Yes.
They've had some hard knocks.
Yes.
But the reason that they're elders is they've bothered to try and find out, how could I do better? Who else has been on similar journeys? Where can I learn? How can I learn more about myself and why I did what I did when I was a young twit? Maybe. And we've all been young twits, that's just life.
Immortal.
Immortal.
Invincible.
So that's right. And why wouldn't I invest in this crazy scheme?
Never going to die.
Yeah, that's right. Never going to die. And, or the other way is I go on autopilot and I just do what I think I'm supposed to do. So I get married. I have 2.2 kids. I get the house somewhere or other. And I'm doing this, and I'm just kind of like, why really am I leading this life?
Well, and for me, having all that stripped away,
I
had the house, I had the marriage, I didn't have children because my partner didn't want kids. But I had all the trappings of what society said I should have.
Yeah, yeah.
I was not realising how one-dimensional and how unhappy I was because I had no frame of reference.
That's right.
But when that was all stripped away, I realised all that I had left was me.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the wake-up call.
That was the
and it was the time that I contemplated suicide.
All right.
I was so in my own lack of self-worth, then losing everything took me to the pits where the pain of that loss was so severe that I was suicidal.
Yeah.
But I do know, particularly for me, my biggest step that I took was to actually go to a proper men's gathering, which I did in 2012. And it was the first time I'd immersed myself in a bunch of 120 guys, manhood, in Queensland.
Yeah.
And it was probably one of the most amazing things I've ever done. I went on my own, scared the bejesus out of me to turn up there, just didn't know a single soul. But the welcome, the camaraderie, the support, the gathering, immersing myself, as I said in this friend recently, in functional testosterone.
Functional testosterone.
Changed my life.
Right.
Was an and that was the night. The first night of that was the night I decided to write Man Unplugged.
Oh, wow.
That was the turning point for me. It'd been brewing for a while, but that night, because what happened was 120 men on the Friday night walked down this massive hill into this huge natural amphitheatre, this bowl, very primal.
Right.
Big fire burning in the middle. Big guys, a guy John Callanan, you know John, one of the elders of manhood.
I think so.
He's
I'm sure
standing there with a big kahuna talking stick.
Yeah.
In silhouette, but up against the fire burning. It's like, wow, very primal. But we filed down in age order, elders first.
Yes, that's right.
And as the circle started to form, and we're bunching up, to my left were probably 20, 30 men, and to my right were probably 80 men. And I got this incredible realisation how far I was along my timeline.
Yeah, right.
So how far I had come and how little I had left.
Right.
And it really cemented for me that I'm now in that much latter half, the last 20, 25% of my life. And the voice in my head was, get the damn book written.
Don't sit on the dream.
That's it. That's all you got left. And I'm so glad that I did. Because then that opened up all new avenues for me to then engage with many different gatherings. But if you're a man who's, maybe even a little bit curious in your mid-40s going, well, what is all this stuff about? I can assure you that you go along to the Tasman gathering in Tasmania or Manhood in Queensland or the one in West Australia, check out the internet, there's heaps of stuff around.
Yes, there is.
But a gathering like that for a weekend, will absolutely change your life. And you'll suddenly realise that all the stuff that's rattling around in your head about, I'm unhappy, this is, a relationship, you sit and share that with other men in those environments and you'll find that you're absolutely not Robinson Crusoe.
It's incredibly healing, isn't it? It's just incredibly healing for men. And it's not a word that we often use around men as healing. In men's work, they talk about it a lot. But the fact is, it just gets men out of that rut of that kind of self-imposed prison.
It is self-imposed.
It
is self-imposed.
But we don't know we're in there.
No.
We really don't know we're in there. Because we think that's what life is, and it's great to go to a men's shed, certainly go to a men's gathering, because these are men that have been on the journey.
Yes.
They have left base camp.
Yes.
And they can always go back there. You can always go back.
You can.
The thing is, just leaving base camp creates more world. It expands us, doesn't it?
And when we get in contact with that level of almost tribal, primal masculinity that's sitting there, perhaps dormant in our own beingness. When that starts to emerge, that's what reignites our potency.
Yeah, that's right.
And then we come back as better husbands, we come back as better fathers, we come back as better employees or managers or whatever it is, because we add another dimension to who we are, and people suddenly feel, wow, what happened? You've changed. You seem more solid, you seem happier, you seem more fulfilled, you seem more settled,
more relaxed.
you seem more present.
Yeah, that's right. Would you like to just summarise what you've just said in a way which, and maybe just speak direct to the camera,
Sure.
On masculinity, roles, and various things that we've just discussed there? Would that be okay for you?
Yeah.
Okay. Give it a go.
So if you feel that if you're a man or know of a man who you might consider is sitting at base camp, and he might be feeling a little bit bored or a little bit scared about taking the next part of his journey in life, then it's important that he finds support and help, particularly from older men who've done that journey. And he'll know by simply having a conversation with them. There are a plethora of books out there, a whole heap of authors, all the way from Robert Bly back in the 80s with Iron John, Stephen Biddulph, who's Australia's sort of main author in this space. Man Unplugged obviously provides a bit of a handbook for those men wanting to take that journey too. And really the encouragement is to simply get the help and support that you need in order to take that step. And if getting out of base camp and going on a bit of a journey and climbing the mountain to see the view is something that calls you, then do it, because you absolutely won't regret it and you'll feel so much more fulfilled as a result.
Thank you, John. Thanks.